from here. And from Philly, he went to study in the University of Medina to pursue his Islamic education. He has a strong passion for teaching fiqh, and he has a master's in hadith. And he's part of the organization known as hadithdisciple. And if you guys have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, Mufti Q&A, it is daily videos of Mufti answering questions. It is amazing. It's 5-7 minute videos. You can watch it on your commute. It's just a quick way to get some insightful answers to knowledge. So we'll have two ways of asking questions. We'll be alternating from them. You could raise your hand to ask a question, or you could text the number 815-51-DAWAH 32924. And this begins.
I'll give you just a couple minutes. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. My dear brothers in Islam. Really briefly, because it's not a talk, but I think there'll be some words that can be encouraging to us all. Me, myself, and I don't say this out of humility, I don't have much. I studied alhamdulillah, for some time overseas, read a couple of books. There are people much more knowledgeable than me, and I honestly mean that. However, no matter how humble I try to be and modest, the reality is what it is. Allah has decreed certain things, and He has placed me in certain positions for wisdom that He knows, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Something that we can't necessarily grasp ourselves. The other day, one of my personal students, not a brother but a sister, she was having some problems with confidence, with self-esteem. Should I do halaqas? Should I teach sisters? People that are better than me. I shouldn't be speaking. I have my own personal mistakes and sins and errors. I feel like I'm a munafiq, a hypocrite. And I shared with her some encouraging words. And I said, you're not the only person that has this feeling. You're not the only person who feels this, that I shouldn't be doing this. So why did the Lord choose this for me? Whether you ask the question or not, whether you feel that way or not, the bottom line is Allah has chosen you. And the qadr is the qadr. And no matter what you want to feel, good or bad, right or left, what Allah has decreed is going to take place, whether you like it or not. As Allah clearly tells us in the Quran Kareem, that if they had willed, maqtatalu. Allah says then they wouldn't have fought. They wouldn't have fought. They wouldn't have differed. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَفْعَلُ مَا يُرِيدُ. Allah does what He wants to do, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So with that being said, the position that I've been placed in and the responsibility that's been thrown upon my shoulders, I have to fulfill it. No matter what I feel about myself. And with that being said, oftentimes people that are speakers and people that actually have knowledge and have benefited, the general people that look at them like they're superheroes or like they're extraterrestrial, like they're something different. Where the general people, this speaker, this sheikh is different. His DNA is different. What he achieved, he memorized the Quran, he has different modes of recitation, he's been overseas, he's pious, he's righteous. He's different than us. We can't get what he got. We can't go where he went. We can't achieve what he has achieved. And this is sometimes one of the doubts of the shaitan. And sometimes it's just ignorance and lack of knowledge. Everyone who's someone in your eyes, whether in the deen or in the dunya, at one point in time was a general normal person, a beginner like you are. And when I was 15 and 14 and 13 and 16 and 17, even 18, I never had a clue or idea that I'll be doing the things I'm doing now and I'll be meeting the people I'm meeting now. I had no idea, no clue whatsoever. So what's important is, if you look up to someone and you feel they have a certain amount of knowledge or piety or righteousness or they're special, know for sure that can be you. And I remember just a couple of years ago, it was me sitting in the audience and listening and looking and running up to somebody, can you answer this question, or what about Medina? Just like that. Some brothers knew me for a few years when I was younger, they remember this. So I'm a normal person just like you are. I'm no special person, I'm a normal person. I come from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. As it was mentioned, I was born and raised Muslim. I'm not a revert, but I grew up in Philadelphia. My neighborhood wasn't the worst part of Philly, but it definitely wasn't the nicest part of Philly. Okay, it wasn't the nicest part. And there were challenges and there were struggles. And I had many friends that were, to be honest with you, shot dead in the street, without any exaggeration, shot dead in the street, killed. I had many friends that may have left Islam, apostated. Many friends that they're still Muslim, they were seeking knowledge. I used to look up to them and they didn't make it. They didn't continue. They fell off, whatever the case may be. Everybody understand this? So I'm not from no special place. I've seen things, I've experienced things, some things I may have done that if I told you, you wouldn't believe. But Allah Azza wa Jal, He does what He wants to do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَيَخْلُقُ that Allah Azza wa Jal, He creates what He وَيَخْتَارُ وَيَخْلُقُ مَا يَشَاءُ وَيَخْتَارُ. Allah Azza wa Jal, He creates what He wants. And He selects what He wants, subhanahu wa ta'ala. مَا كَانَ لَهُمُ الْخِيَرَةُ. Allah says the slaves don't have an option. They don't have a choice. Allah is the one who selects and He who chooses. So with that being said, before we start this Q&A session, I'm your brother in Islam. Look at me like that. And if you have a question or a concern or a comment or something that you want to bring up, feel comfortable. Don't feel like it's embarrassing or he's this. I'm your brother in Islam. And I come from, inshallah ta'ala, simple basic background. Nothing special. Feel comfortable. And if you aspire to do something of good, you should try to do it. Because you never know what Allah Azza wa Jalla has in store for you. If you have the vision, if you have the talent, if you have the ability, you should pursue it. And you have to pursue it in your youthful years. You can't wait until you're old. You can't wait until you're stressed and you have kids and bills. You have to do it when you're young. And you never know what Allah Azza wa Jalla has decreed for you. And if we knew what Allah had decreed for us, where would the world be today? Huh? Allah knows best.
The first question, does anybody have a question they would like to ask? Or raise your hand.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alaikum salam.
The question I have is, I just want some general advice. For the beginning of the year, I started getting into the deen a lot, and I very heavily wanted to engage in seeking knowledge. At the same time, I would really want to give dawah, even though I don't have a lot of knowledge. But I would see brothers and I would think, I think this person is going to go into that hellfire. How could I not say something to them? And then I would end up focusing a lot on dawah as well. Basically what I want to ask is general advice on how can I balance this? How can I balance seeking knowledge and giving dawah? Should I put off giving dawah until I have more of a foundation?
Clear, crystal clear. Question in brief is, how do I balance between giving dawah, studying and learning? What comes first? Should I prioritize, etc.? My answer with the limited amount of time we have is yes and no. As we always say, yes and no. You should focus on seeking knowledge and only seeking knowledge, without a doubt. Benefit yourself first. Save yourself from the fire, then your children and your family and your friends. As far as the no part, then every single Muslim is a da'iyah. Every Muslim must be a caller to Allah on one level or another. Some people have the ability to verbally call to Allah. Some people are skilled and talented in speaking and writing books. Some people can debate with the non-Muslims, with ignorant Muslims, misguided Muslims. And then there are some of us who do dawah through our actions. A smile, a kind word, holding the door for someone. Have a nice day, thank you very much. Dressing in a nice way. Muslims are clean, Muslims are hygienic, Muslims look good, they're smooth. That's dawah. How you conduct yourself. We said the other night, playing sports. Being a good athlete is a form of what? Is a form of dawah. Because people, they look up to these people. And then you represent Islam through your actions. And if you have the ability to say something to a person, or to give them a website, or a link, or a book, or actually tell them something that you know about, then that is what you should do. And that's a means of you learning. You learn through teaching. But do not get caught up in the web that so many people have got caught into and fell into. And that is busying themselves with classes and teaching and dawah and this personality, social media type thing. And they themselves have a little bit of knowledge. And this is well known to the people of the past, the ulama of the past. As Al-Hafidh al-Dhahabi rahimahullah would say about some of the ulama, and he would quote from them, he says, يُرِيدُ أَن يَطِيرُ وَلَمَا يُرَيِّشْ. He says, this little birdie wants to fly, and his feathers aren't long enough yet. You see a young owl or a young eagle, they don't have the color of the mature owls and eagles. Their feathers aren't straight and slick. They have bushy feathers. They're just getting out of the nest. So don't busy yourself with this and with that until you yourself have long enough feathers. Busy yourself with knowledge, study, memorize, take the proper understanding. Then, perhaps a time will come when Allah will choose you for that. Until then, you give dawah on your own personal scale. Someone come to you, ask you about Islam, tell them what you know. Your aunt, your cousin, your neighbor, your co-worker, on your own personal scale. And this is what the ulama of Islam call at-tabligh. You convey the message. As far as al-qiyamu bid-da'wah, you doing da'wah as a full-time thing. You being a day and night, a website and this and that. No. Busy yourself with knowledge. And it's one of the greatest tricks and the traps of the shaitan. And it was well known to the people of knowledge, and that which is called at-tasaddur qabla at-ta'aqqud. Putting yourself out there before you're qualified. Putting yourself out there before you're qualified. So beware of that. There's more than enough people that can give dawah, can teach and talk. You just worry about studying and benefiting, if that's what you really want to do. Wallahu a'lam.
All right, the next question that we got was that they texted in was, besides fasting, what are some effective ways to resist or stop acting upon sexual temptations towards females?
Well, before we even get into avoiding sexual temptations towards females, you shouldn't necessarily try to avoid sexual temptations towards females. That's natural. You can't control that. No. Allah says, Minan Nisa. The very first temptation for man and the thing that he's attracted to and inclined to naturally is women. That's natural. So you shouldn't necessarily try to fight that which is natural. And Islam never, ever goes against that which is natural. Abadan. Islam never goes against the natural way. Islam only wishes to channel. Islam only wishes to harvest and to maintain and manage the natural way. But for a man to have no desire of women and not to like women and not to be inclined towards women, there's no hadith that says this. Rather, there's a hadith on the contrary attributed to the Prophet ﷺ, in which the Prophet ﷺ is quoted to have said, حُبِّبَ إِلَيَّ مِن دُنْيَاكُمْ الطِّيبُ وَالنِّسَاءُ. He says, from the things of your worldly life, listen carefully to this hadith. He says, your worldly life, تَحْقِيرًا لِشَأْنِ الدُّنْيَا, scorning the worldly life. He says, from the things of your worldly life that are made pleasing to me, is good smelling perfume and women. So the Prophet ﷺ, he liked women. And that's a very long discussion with regards to the Prophet marrying 9 women, having 9 women. Was he a lustful man? He only married widows. He only married women that were old. The Prophet ﷺ was a man. And he liked women, and there's nothing that's wrong with that. So, should you get rid of the inclination towards women? No. Because that is what? It's unnatural. And it's going to lead to disastrous things. Rather, you have to channel it. Girlfriend, pornography, fornicating, parties, that's a different story. Marriage and being attracted to a woman, that is what you should do. So oftentimes, fast. Don't worry about it. Just no. Fast, work, have this hobby, and also get married. يا معشر الشباب من استطاع منكم الباءة فليتزوج. لماذا؟ ليش نتزوج واحنا صغار؟ فإنه إيش؟ أغض للبصر وأحصن للفرج. The Prophet said, oh assembly of youth, oh young men, don't like women. The Prophet never said don't like women. The Prophet said something, he never said do away with your natural temptation. He never said that. He says anyone who can should get married, because marrying protects your gaze, and the gaze is the doorway to the soul, and it is pure for your private parts. So if you have the ability to get married, get married. If you have the ability, inshallah ta'ala, to find a good sister, that is what you should do. In the meantime, fast, seek knowledge, so on and so forth. So once more, brothers and sisters, and this is of paramount importance, Islam is a natural way. And a man not to like a woman and to say that I don't like women is what? That's unnatural. That's unnatural. Wallahu a'lam.
So the way we're going to be doing this, we're going to be alternating from the text questions to raising hand questions. So if anybody has a question that they would like to raise. No one? Brother?
Why is it so easy for people to bring in cultures, innovations into Islam, and there's great text from the Quran and Hadith that says haram?
Why is it so easy for people to bring cultural practices and innovations to Islam and against or in contrast to the text of the Quran and Sunnah? First and foremost, guys, we have to understand something. The panel discussion last night was a panel discussion. It wasn't a lecture series. It wasn't necessarily a class. It was a panel discussion. Time is limited. Speakers are diverse backgrounds, diverse abilities, and talents. So everything that was said or everything that is said in the panel doesn't mean that that's the final say-so. And it doesn't mean that that is the statement and the opinion of every single panelist. It doesn't mean that. So, culture in Islam has to be based off of balance. Balance. Certain practices in Islam you can keep. And there is no hadith that's authentic that's telling you to get rid of. And I clearly said last night there are certain cultural practices and ways of looking at life that Islam aggressively, I use a specific word, aggressively wishes to demolish and get rid of. Everybody understand this? Jahiliyyah, such as how a person looks towards the opposite sex, or pride, or whatever the case may be. Bad cultural practices, Islam aggressively wishes to get rid of them. But the practices which are good and wholesome, Islam never ever wants you to get rid of them. So all culture is not bad. Whether it's from Pakistan, Shalwar Kameez, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It doesn't mean that. And oftentimes, if you want to be real and honest, there may be things that you are introduced to, it's a bid'ah, or a weak hadith, or a cultural practice, and it gets you on the path to the sunnah and that which is correct. Do you think when I first started seeking knowledge it was Medina University, hadith, master's degree? Of course not. Do you think when I first started memorizing the Quran, it was the Mus'haf from the Malik Fahad Quran complex? Of course not. Do you think it was a tailor-made thobe? Of course not. Do you think it was this Parker pen? Of course not. At one point in time, there was a plastic pen, a cheap, crappy pen. But that put you on the what? On the way to desire to get more. So everything that's said in every panel doesn't mean that that's the final say-so. So all culture is not bad. There's certain cultural practices which are from the Sunnah, whether it's a Muslim culture or a non-Muslim culture. You clear on that? As far as the cultural practices which are bad, then oftentimes there's ignorance. Ignorance is a cancer. And it's a cancer that kills. Many people, they want good, but they just don't know. And they offer the best that they can. And there's some people, while they have the bid'ah, who are evil. And they do know. But for one reason or another, they give you bad information. And there are often things which is difference of opinion, different views, different ways of looking at it. Everybody understand this? But the cure to all things within the ta'ala is knowledge. مَنْ يُرِدِ لَهُ بِهِ خَيْرًا يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. That is the hadith that you're going to have on your wall. That's the hadith you're going to have as your screensaver. Whoever Allah wants good for, He gives them knowledge of the deen. What to do, what not to do, when to do it, how to do it. Knowledge is the foundation. That's the key. And all evil and vice comes from, originally, ignorance. Everybody understand this? Ignorance. Iblis, he said to Allah, أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِنْهُ. He says, I'm better than Adam. خَلَقْتَنِي مِنْ نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِنْ طِينٍ. You created me from fire, you made him from clay. I.e., fire is better than clay. And for many aspects, fire is superior to clay. For many. But for many other aspects, clay is superior to fire. And this was from the ignorance of Iblis. From clay comes life. Things grow, things sprout forth. You make things, you create things, you construct things with dirt, with clay, with mud. And fire is dangerous. And it's easily mishandled. Fire is extremely aggressive. People lose their lives, their property, because of what? Because of fire. Fire attracts certain things that you don't necessarily want to be attracted to that fire. So Iblis, he was ignorant and he was prideful. So there are many reasons behind bid'ah. There are many reasons behind cultural practices taking the place of Islam. With the limited amount of time we have right now, I would say the key foundation is jahl, is ignorance. And the cure to that, bid'ah ta'ala, is pure knowledge. That is the sharp blade that will cut through any type of falsehood. If it's properly what? Wielded. Wallahu a'lam.
The next question I received is about photography. Is photography under the umbrella of tasweer? Is it haram to pick up photography as a hobby?
We've done an extensive lecture on the topic on Hadith Disciple called A Brief Discussion of Tasweer. We talked about it, we call it a brief discussion, which it is relatively brief, but it's relatively extensive as well. Please go back to that lecture in which we mentioned the speech of the people of knowledge, of the current day and of the past with regards to tasweer, what is and what isn't. Sculpting, illustrating, drawing, taking a picture. Please go back to that lecture. What's important is that you have to look at the outcome of things. The believer doesn't look at the tip of his nose. Look at what's going to happen tomorrow, next month, next year. You start off as a photographer. You start taking pictures of landscapes, of cars, of conferences. Then someone comes to you offering you another job, and a different job, and another program. The next thing you know, you may be taking pictures of things which are unlawful according to all the people of knowledge. So be mindful of what things can lead to. Be mindful, look towards tomorrow. As far as taking a picture, then me personally, from my humble studies, I don't feel that taking a picture is haram. I don't feel that taking a video is haram. As long as the content is Islamically wholesome. You're not taking a picture of a woman that you're not supposed to see, you're not a mahram for. You're not taking a picture of a boy or a man in a scandalous type of way, of fitna, leading to some type of homosexuality or pedophilia or something like this. You're not taking a picture of something which is unbefitting of a Muslim. Then that which I feel from the speech of the people of knowledge is that it's permissible to take a picture. And if it's permissible to take a picture, then it's permissible to be a photographer, but with those conditions. And to sum up the answer, that I know about the Muslims are in need of professionals in all aspects of professionalism. Muslims need people that have skill, talent, and experience in all fields. Conferences, classes, masjids, whatever the case may be, they need people to take professional photographs. Wallahu a'lam.
Yes, brother.
Why they come sit down to law?
I have a question related to seeking knowledge. We talked about earlier seeking authentic knowledge. Now, depending on which type of movement you may be inclined to or what you was introduced to, you'll be following that initially. And then I wanted to ask you personally your question. How did you determine what was the right thing to do? Because obviously, whether you're going one way or another way, everybody has justification, whether they lock you in on how you determine certain hadith to be authentic.
Crystal clear.
Yeah. So how did you?
Crystal clear. Question says in brief, how did you find your way? How does a Muslim decipher and determine? How does a Muslim discern between which movement, which dawah, which website, which sheikh, which conference is good? Should you attend, listen to, etc.? Correct? Very important question. And I would say that I'll give you a few principles. The first principle is that it's not upon you to determine or discern, but it's upon you to ask Allah to allow you to see clearly. And if it wasn't for Allah's bounty and Allah's mercy, mazakat, Allah says, none of you will be purified. Minkum min ahadin abada, walakin Allah yuzaki man yasha. Allah tells us, if it wasn't for Allah's fadl and His rahmah, none of you will be purified. No one will have tazkiyah. So Allah is the one who purifies. Allah is the one who guides. Allah is the one who allows to see whom He wills to see clearly, not yourself. Principle number 2 is that Allah has given the human being one of the strongest weapons, and that's the weapon of common sense. Solid common sense. Not Islamic knowledge, the Quran, Hadith, Aqidah, basic common sense. And there is no doubt there are many movements or speakers or websites, if you just used a bit of common sense, you would know that I'm not supposed to be listening or watching this. Or you would know this is where it is. No doubt about that, just off of common sense, let alone Islamic knowledge. I'll give you a basic example of this. I won't mention the names. 2 brothers in New York, a brother and a sister in New York City. They're originally from Bangladesh. So they were married, they have a child, some things took place, some things happened, they got separated. Things became really bumpy and rocky, all right? And the sister, the ex-wife of the brother, she began to follow a movement, listen to people, website that totally reject and deny all hadiths. In Islam, not Islam, but Islam is nothing but the Quran. That's it. So obviously, he's going through the separation, and he's also infuriated. He has a daughter that's going to live with this woman, and she said there's no hadith. There's nothing but the Quran. So this brother is not a scholar. He's not a student of knowledge. He's not learning. He's a worldly professional. But he said something which was extremely profound. He said as he was arguing with his ex-wife, and I was arbitrating between them. And he said, I said to the lawyer in the judgment time, how can she say that this is Islam and this is what's correct? And he said, the person I was talking to was a Jew. I asked that Jewish man, would a person be considered a Jew upon Jewish faith, Judaism, and saying that there is the Torah without Moses? Obviously, we all know what the Jewish man said. I.e., that makes no what? No sense. To say, La ilaha Muhammad Rasulullah, she said that's shirk to say that. There's only Allah by Himself, God by Himself. There's no Muhammad Rasulullah with God. He says, how can someone claim to be a Jew and say that there is Judaism without what? Without Moses. That doesn't make any what? Sense. Clear on that? So that's an example of how oftentimes use common sense. Number 3, and perhaps it's the last principle I'll give you, because the question is a very detailed answer that needs to be given, is that it's always going to be relative. It's always going to be relative. So if you have sincerity, ikhlas, and you ask Allah for guidance, and you use your common sense, and you try to determine, bid'at ta'ala, you're upon good. Even if you err, like Salman al-Farisi, he wasn't with the Prophet immediately. He was a Zoroastrian, the Jews, the Christians. He was sold as a slave, and then he felt Muhammad sallallahu. But he was with what he thought was the truth. Last but not least is try to stick with a website or speaker or speakers that are calling you to Quran and Sunnah. And there's more ayat in the hadith than there are names for scholars and personalities. And there are oftentimes websites for personality, this one, that one, instead of Quran and hadith. And I'm not talking about one group of people. This is all around the board. I'll leave you with this. People talk about the Prophet's birthday, and it's permissible to celebrate the Prophet's birthday. 9 out of 10 people who say that it's permissible and recommend to celebrate his birthday, the first thing that they want to mention, not 10 out of 10, but 9 out of 10, is the name of a scholar. قال الفلان واستحسنه فلان واستحبه فلان وقال فلان. They want to mention all of these names. They don't want to puff them up. He was a great Maliki scholar of the 7th century. He was a Shafi George of this town, this town. And then perhaps they'll mention an ayah or a hadith. Everybody understand this? And there are other groups as well. I'm not talking about just one group. So look at the ratio. Qala Allah, Qala Rasulullah, Qala Allah, Qala Rasulullah. And then the explanation, this Imam and that Imam. So this is one key. There are many, many others. Look at the what? The ratio. Obviously the time is limited. This needs an entire lecture in itself. Wallahu a'lam.
We have gotten a lot of questions along the similar line. Is it halal to have a girlfriend and show affection? Is it wrong to be friends with the opposite gender? Is it wrong to kiss a girl without probably being married? How do you go about getting to know someone of the opposite gender to get married?
Right. I'll say this, and I'll say this frankly and openly without any shyness, as we say, without any sugar on it. In 2017, a young Muslim man says, I have a girlfriend, or I like a girl, or I kissed a girl, or I took a picture of a girl. Of course it's haram. Of course it's unlawful. It's hated by Allah Azza wa Jalla. But at the same time, it causes some relative happiness. Relative, I said. No one misquote me. Relative happiness because of the widespread plague of homosexuality, in which it's okay to be gay, and it's okay to like men, and it's natural, and it's how I was born. I.e., a young man who likes a girl, it's haram for him to touch her and kiss her if they're not married, but at least he still has some fitrah left. In a place and a time in which the fitrah is literally put into a blender. It's ripped to pieces and thrown all over the place. And be feminine, don't be masculine. It's okay. It's nothing wrong with being gay. It's natural. It's only haram to make sodomy. You only get beheaded and thrown off a building if you live in an Islamic state and if you get caught in the act of sodomy. This is what we hear from learned people. And that's atrocious. It's not okay. It's not right, and it is unnatural. And I'm saying it's unnatural. If you have a problem, if you have an issue, that's one thing. But the ruling of Allah and His Messenger never, ever changes. And there's not one verse in the Quran in which Allah Azza wa Jalla says, Al-Dhakar wa-Dhakar, Min al-Dhakari wa-Dhakar. Allah always says, Min al-Dhakari wal-Untha, male and female. There was one time, there was a brother from the UK, he contacted me. And he said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh Mufti. He says, I'm a hadith disciple. He says, I love Allah and His Messenger. I'm a Muslim. He says, but I like men. I'm homosexual. I'm gay. Help me out. Guide me. What can I do? How can I stop? So on and so forth. This person who was actually practicing homosexuality, he acknowledged that it was what? Wrong. Everybody saying this? So for a boy to like a girl, as we said, that's what? That's natural. That's what? That's natural. But you have to keep it in check now. You have to do it the right way that's pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's through marriage. So, a little bit of time that we have, we all know the cultural mixing pot. This person's from Palestine. He's a black American. He's Puerto Rican. He's Palestinian. They're from Bangladesh. He's from Egypt. This is a big cultural pot of jumbo in America. So, I'm black. She's Palestinian. Her parents won't accept me as a husband. My parents may not accept her as a wife. But I like her, she likes me. I love her, she loves me. What do we do now? How can we get the marriage in order? And the list goes on. If I go directly to her father, let's say, get out of here. If I go directly to her mother, she says no. If she comes to my family, she'll be rejected. So how do I get to know her? I'll say this to you. Fear Allah to the best of your ability. Try to do your best. Try to have a sincere intention. If you're sincere, if you work hard, and if you're patient, Allah will make a way for you, one way or another. But you can't rush, you can't be hasty, and you cannot do things how you want to do them. If you slip up, if you make a mistake, if you fall short, inshallah ta'ala, get back on track. Get in where you fit and try your best. And try your hardest to avoid that which is displeasing to Allah Azza wa Jalla and His Messenger. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. If you have the good intention, Allah Azza wa Jalla بِإِذْنِ will help you out and guide you and make things easy for you. مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. From ways you may not feel and think are possible. So of course the answer to having girlfriends is haram in Islam. You can't kiss a girl you're not married to, it's haram. You can't touch the hand of a girl that you're not married to, it's impermissible. Everybody understand this? But it's better than saying that you want to be with the same sex. And having the intention of marriage is a noble thing. If you slip up, you lose your way, get back on track, and inshallah ta'ala, keep at it, keep hacking at the tree no matter how thick it is, eventually it will fall. Bi'idhnillah. That's in brief. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
So, how do I deal with my close family relatives who, some of them try to wage war against me, Islam, my integrity in my life? So how do I combat that as far as trying to spread Islam to my younger siblings when the guardian is waging war against me in Islam?
So, question in regards to conflict between me and my family members, trying to practice Islam, my younger siblings, etc. I'll say this to you, Akhi Kareem. There were people who came before you that were better than you, and that were closer to Allah, and they were pure and more beloved to Allah, and they had problems that were worse than you. Nuh alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and the list goes on. There were ulama of the ulama, the anbiya and the rusul, the prophets and the messengers, the best of the best. And they had people from their family members that didn't believe. So don't despair, don't feel sad. Know for sure that there are people that are further from Allah, hated by Allah, that may have outward harmony that you may not have in your family. And there are people that were closer to Allah and more beloved to Allah Azza wa Jalla, they had similar problems, if not worse than you. So don't feel sad, don't despair. Be happy being the next subhanahu wa ta'ala. My advice to you is don't impose your will upon your family, whether they're Muslim and they're practicing cultural Islam, bid'ah, this and that, or whether they're non-Muslim. Make sure that you have the best character. Make sure you have the best, you're the finest dress, the cleanest, the most hygienic, be most respectful. And inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you put on a good example in yourself, and you stick to your values yourself, and you say what you say when you can, Allah Azza wa Jalla may guide those younger siblings through you, without you fighting with your parents. A head-on clash is ill-advised. You have to be strategic. You have to be what? Strategic. Put on a good example and have good akhlaq. Everybody understand this? And have strong knowledge. That is far more attractive to your younger siblings than what your parents are talking about. And you never know who's watching you, who's listening to you, and who's going to take your example. Just do your job. That's all you got to do. That's all you have to do. Don't argue with your parents. Don't fight with your parents. They fight you, alhamdulillah. You run away from them. Leave them alone. You just do you. And hopefully, by Allah's permission, you make your younger siblings will follow you, inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do not fight with your parents or the rest of your family members. You just do you, inshallah ta'ala. And leave it upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's my advice. Very important. Don't clash with your family.
So we are short on time, so we only have 2 more questions, one from here and one from the brother in the blue sweatshirt as he raised his hand last time. But the first one, this question: what should a young Muslim guy do if he keeps on staying away from a sin, but keeps on falling into that same sin over and over?
Don't look where you fell, but look where you slipped. Never look where you fall, look where you slip. What caused you to fall into this sin? Many people who drink alcohol, smoke weed, do all types of heavy drugs and pills, watch pornography, and all types of stuff. In most cases, it's because they're starving for something else. They're dying on the inside. They're depressed. They're sad. They're lonely. They've been abused. Something happened to them. So they're looking for something to fill that emotional and spiritual void. So if you know that you smoke weed when you get stressed out, avoid stress. You know that you're going to be with this girl when you dress in a certain way. Don't dress like that. Don't go to that place. Stay away from those people. Leave that friend alone, because there's nothing more hop, skip, jump back into the sin. And just ask yourself the question. You make tawbah, you do well, and you relapse. You feel like trash after you relapse. You kick yourself. How did I do it again? Astaghfirullah. I told myself I wasn't going to do it again. I made a firm resolve. You feel bad. You feel like a hypocrite. So just think about what is stronger. The impulsive pleasure that you get from smoking and drinking or making zina, or the horrible feeling that you have with your own self. You can't even look yourself in the mirror. So every time you think about the taste and the pleasure, think about the pain and the agony. And inshallah ta'ala, it's going to hurt at first. You're addicted. You're stuck on it. But if you continue to try and strive, it's nothing but a few bumps and nicks and cuts that you have to take. And then inshallah ta'ala, you'll learn how to avoid that blow. So look at what causes you to fall back into that sin. What causes you to relapse. A place, a location, a situation. I have too much money, whatever the reason, too much free time. Don't look at where you fell, but look at where you slipped. Look at how you fell and what led you to that fall. And try your best to avoid it. Don't be alone. Get a hobby. Learn something. Get rid of your money. As soon as you get some money, buy something. Spend it. Give it to a friend. Because if you have the extra money, you're going to buy this, you're going to go here. And the list goes on. That's my advice, inshallah ta'ala. Wallahu alam.
Yes, the brother in the blue sweatshirt had a question.
Right hand or the left hand?
Wa
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
My question is there a legal allowed way to remove somebody from power? Because there's plenty of hadith in the state I know where if you hate something, you use your hands with this. If you hate it, you keep doing it, you speak against it. You can't do anything, you hate it, your heart, which is the lowest of that. Why is it so controversial when Muslims come together and why against a certain thing not?
With regards to removing something physically by force or evil, that is from the deen, without a question, on whatever level it may be. You're talking about the government, imam, oppressor, someone on the street, a bully, a thug, whatever the case may be. If you can change with your hands, that's your obligation. If you can't, speak out against it. If you can't, hate it in your heart, which is the weakest of faith, as you quoted the hadith, without a question. However, you have to look at what's going to happen. If you physically removing someone or something is going to cause a greater harm, then you leave it alone. If you standing up and making a stance is going to make things even more chaotic, then leave it alone. A warrior was a good warrior. He knows when to fight and when not to fight. Even though he has the ability to fight all of the time, but not right now, because it's going to, what happened? You have to be smart, you have to be wise. Everybody understand this? So therefore that hadith does not clash and it doesn't contradict with the other hadiths about being patient and about not making fasad, corruption in the land. So if you can change it, change it. If you can't, wait until the time which Allah allows you to change it. As far as rioting or protesting, that's a different discussion. Is it permissible for Muslims to protest? That's a different discussion. But removing someone physically that's causing harm, that's an Islamic obligation based on the hadith that you quoted. But with the condition that you don't make the situation more chaotic. Everybody understand this? You don't put more water in the what? In the clay. You don't put out a grease fire with what? With water. Because it's going to get worse. Clear on that? So just look at it like that. It's a fire coming from the frying pan, but water is going to do what? It's going to make it worse. And not a good example? You have to learn how to put out that grease fire in a different way. And if not, you're going to have a problem. Make sense? On any level. Wallahu a'lam.
We actually have time for one more question. This question is, if you're not Muslim, can you go to Jannah?
The Prophet ﷺ has informed us that no soul shall enter paradise unless it is a believing soul. Nafsun mu'mina. A believing soul. There's no one that's going to enter paradise unless they were a believer. What they look like, where they come from, what race, what age, if they believed in the law in the last day, in the proper, in the mandatory, necessary way, they will go to paradise. and if not, they will not. Now, a few brief pieces of advice, guys, is one of the tricks that many people use, or as we say, a monkey wrench or a banana peel in your path to slow you down, is to ask about other faiths. You're being a Muslim, you're calling to Islam. One of the first things is, well, what about other faiths? What do you think about Jews and Christians? Or your grandmother, you saying she's in the hellfire? Or my grandmother, I'm going to go to hell if I don't believe in you? So on and so forth. Now, the immature caller to Allah is going to fall right into the trap. He's going to slip on a banana peel. But the experienced caller to Allah, the one who has knowledge and proper training, he knows how to totally sidestep it and get out of the way, because it's a weak punch. And it was something that was used by one of the greatest tyrants, and that was Fir'aun. Fir'aun, he asked Musa alayhi salam, are you a prophet? Are you a messenger? Does your dawah make sense? He says, Ma balu qurunil ula. He says, what about the ancients? What about the ancients? Were they misguided? Are they in the fire of hell? This God that you call Allah, is he going to punish the ancients? What did Musa alayhi salam say? They want to be in the hellfire. He says, Ilmu inda Rabbi. He says, my Lord knows best about the ancients. I'm not here to talk about the ancients. I'm not here to talk about those people. I'm not here to talk about your grandmother, you. I'm here to talk about Islam. Everybody understand this? And once you get out of the way of that punch, you sidestep it, it's not much that they have anymore. So it's not my job to determine who's going to the paradise. I don't know if I'm going to paradise. I want to go to paradise. I don't know. I'm going to strive and I'm going to try. And the time, the energy, and the effort that you use to talk about who it is and isn't going to the hellfire, and is Islam the truth or not, that is time, energy, and effort you can use to be a Muslim. And you know it makes sense. And if it did make sense, you wouldn't be talking about it and discussing it right now in 2017. Because Muhammad came from Arabia over 1,000 years ago. Why is he still a hot topic on CNN, BBC, and Jazeera? If he was just a normal person. So therefore, you don't even have to answer that question. I believe those who worship God and only God alone without any partner, believe in his prophets and messengers, will go to paradise. And the second technique for a call to Allah is the reversal technique. You ask them, what do Christians say about non-Christians? Are they going to paradise? What do Jews say about Gentiles? Everybody understand this? Very important techniques is not to get trapped by your opponent in a debate. Everybody understand this? You have to watch out for the traps. And this can only come from knowledge and experience. Wallahu a'lam.
I understand some brothers had some follow-up questions on that. They were raising their hand during while I was answering. Yes, brother.
So like you say, you just there's never a time limit of when you can convert to Islam, right?
Whenever the truth is made clear to you.
Yes, brother.
No, Amir, not Amir. No, not Amir. Amir can't ask questions. That's my man. That's my man. He can't ask questions. He see me another time.
Is there, everybody might benefit from it.
We'll come back, perhaps.
Is it ever
Yeah, youth session, Amir. You're not youth, Akhi. Got too many gray.
Is it ever too late for an elder to become a student of knowledge? And is there examples of...
The question says, is it ever too late for an elder to become a student of knowledge? No. It's never too late. Knowledge is always for whoever wants it. وَعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينُ. Allah told Muhammad, chapter 15, he said, worship your Lord until certainty comes to you, i.e. death. And worship is based off of what? Knowledge. I'm going to share a brief story with you. One of the great scholars of the past, Ibn Hazm, rahimahullah. Ibn Hazm is a famous alim. He came from the Arabic West, Al-Maghrib al-Arabi, Spain, Portugal, Cordoba, Andalusia, so on and so forth. He wasn't from the East. So this man, Ibn Hazm, who's well known by all, even those who hate him and don't like him, they know of him. Because he was groundbreaking in his research and his discussions. Ibn Hazm wasn't a zahid. He wasn't a poor man. He wasn't an ascetic. He wasn't a person who divorced his women. He was rich and he was royal. And he was the son of the wazir, the prime minister. Everybody understand this? So obviously, whatever he wanted, he had. Power, money, luxury. He probably didn't wash himself up. He had servants and slaves to wash himself up, putting the finest clothes on him, giving him the finest foods. So he was spoiled. He was privileged. So they say that Ibn Hazm, he was 40 years old. And one day he went to the mosque and he started making a salah. And as he finished the salah, he saw that somebody was looking at him and staring at him and basically like making fun of him. And behold, as we say, the person that was making fun of him was like basically a slave. Or if he wasn't a slave, he was a peasant. Somebody of no lineage, no status, no power, Why are we even praying in the same mosque together? What many Muslims do today. So the peasant man, he looked at him, and he knew he was, and he laughed. He said, look at you. He said, you're rich, you're powerful. He says, you can't even pray. You stood like this, you said like that, you did this, so on and so forth. He says, I'm a slave, I'm a peasant, and I know better than you do. And Hazm was ultimately offended and disrespected. He could have had the man beheaded and killed if he wanted to. But before he was impulsive with his rage and his anger, he sat back and said, Dad, this sorry excuse of a human being, this peasant talking to me like this? But you know what? He's right. It's sad, it's pitiful. I have all of this access and I don't even know what to do, the basics of Islam, and he does. That was his rocket launcher. That's what pushed him and gave him the drive to become who he became, of that amazing, erudite, critical scholar, until he became known and respected, maybe not by all, but by many. He was 40 years old. So it's never a time limit. But how bad do you want it? How hungry are you? And what are you willing to sacrifice? Remember, understand this? Knowledge doesn't come with a silver platter, which most of us think today. And I'll say this openly, most of us would think this. That knowledge comes on a bed of roses. Evidently, you have to sacrifice for knowledge. You have to give up things for knowledge. You have to suffer for knowledge. How willing are you to suffer and to sacrifice? If you're hungry, if you have the drive, if you have the sincerity, if you have the old work even at an old age, Allah will bless you in the next time. So there's never an age. Wallahu a'lam.
Alright, I have some good news and I have some bad news. The bad news is that this lesson is over. We've met our time. But there's some good news. Mufti has a speaker's corner from 4:45 to 6. So you can ask him one-on-one questions just right outside by the registration area. Do not be afraid to ask Mufti questions, even though it's not anonymous. They'll always take your questions. The second thing is there have been a lot of questions about gender interactions. There's a gender interaction session with Imam Shadid tomorrow, I believe 11:45 to 12:25 p.m. There are extra platters that are left. It's free. If anybody wants them, they can take them. Some other announcements are that for VIP breakfast, if you're staying at the hotel, you have to pick up your voucher for breakfast at the front desk, at the registration. Breakfast is from 7 to 10.